To be aware of oneself is not to dissect, to critique, or reshape what is seen, but to simply allow the self to arise, to unfold, to be, without resistance and without reaching. In the silence of observation, in the still mirror of consciousness, we meet ourselves, not as an idea or a role or an aspiration, but simply as we are. There is no destination in the path of self-awareness, because the truth of who you are is not something to be achieved, but remembered, revealed, rediscovered in each breath, each pause, each quiet turning inward. The mind will often attempt to fix, to define, to perfect. But Zen whispers gently, let it be. Let the thoughts pass like clouds across a vast sky. Do not grasp. Do not chase. Watch, sit, listen. The self that watches is not the self that judges. It is the presence behind all change, the stillness beneath all movement, the witness of the witness. When we stop striving to be something other than what we are, we begin to see clearly. There is nothing lacking. There is nothing broken. There is only this moment, this breath, this awareness that simply is. The path to self-acceptance is not paved with improvement, but with surrender. Not surrender as defeat, but surrender as release, as softening, as allowing things to be just as they are. The true self cannot be forced into shape like clay. It is water, ever flowing, adapting, reflecting, yet never ceasing to be itself. When we look into the mirror without trying to change the image, when we sit with ourselves without trying to escape, we begin to understand the quiet joy of being. There is a deep peace in allowing ourselves to just be, not perfect, not finished, not always sure, but real, alive, breathing. Zen invites us to live with open hands, releasing the burden of becoming, and entering fully into the gentle unfolding of now. The more we try to catch the self like a fish in a net, the more it slips away. For the self is not a fixed object, but a spacious awareness. In that space, judgment fades, tension softens, and acceptance arises not as a decision, but as a natural bloom in the soil of attention. Just as the moon is not disturbed by the reflection in the pond, we too are not defined by passing thoughts or shifting emotions. We learn to watch them arise and fall, come and go, without labeling, without attaching, without turning them into our identity. This is the great freedom of Zen, to witness without clinging, to see clearly without distortion, to rest in the presence of the self, without the need to fix or improve. We become like the mountain, unmoved by the changing weather, rooted in silence, vast in stillness. In this place, the inner critic has no voice, for there is no one to criticize, no mold to conform to, no image to protect. We become deeply intimate with our own being, not through analysis, but through presence, not by dissecting, but by feeling, not through striving, but by resting in what is. This kind of awareness is not cold or detached. It is the most compassionate gaze we can offer ourselves. It says, I see you. I see your fear, your confusion, your hopes, your weariness, and I do not turn away. I do not reject. I do not demand. I simply stay. This is the essence of true acceptance, to stay, to be present with all that we are, even when we are uncertain, even when we are lost, even when we feel unworthy. Zen teaches that the moment we stop fighting the self, we find the self is not an enemy but a companion. The self we feared was not too much or not enough. It was simply waiting for us to stop running and come home. When we sit with ourselves in meditation, in stillness, in breath, we are not trying to improve. We are remembering that underneath all fear and longing and pretense, there is something vast and free and already whole. The sound of a bell, the rustle of wind, the rhythm of your own breath. These are not distractions, they are gateways. Every moment is a mirror. Every sensation is a teacher. Every breath is a return. In the quiet openness of attention, the need to fix dissolves. What is left is awareness itself, spacious, loving, undemanding. Awareness that makes no claims. Awareness that welcomes everything. This is what it means to accept yourself. It is not approval or denial, not agreement or rejection. It is the act of resting in presence so completely that all distinctions fall away. There is no inner war, no hierarchy of emotion, no needing to be other than what is. You are here. You are breathing. You are aware. And in this, you are free. The seasons of the mind will continue to turn. Joy, sorrow, fear, excitement, doubt. But the ground beneath them is steady. That ground is you. Not the story of you. Not the personality. Not the roles or names or goals. But the being that simply is. The more we learn to return to this, the more we find that peace was never far. It was beneath the noise, behind the masks, under the seeking. Peace is not something you earn. It is something you remember. When we stop trying to be someone and allow ourselves to simply be, we discover the self that is beyond identity. The self that is not trapped by form or history, but is as spacious and open as the sky. We begin to notice the stillness beneath thought, the silence behind words, the presence that has never left us. In this awareness, we no longer judge our past or fear our future. We see it all as part of the unfolding. The pain, the beauty, the failure, the growth, it is all part of the river. And we are the river. No need to stand outside of it and analyze. Just flow. Just be. Just breathe. Each inhale is an invitation. Each exhale is a letting go. There is no need to perform. No need to achieve presence. It is already here, beneath all effort, beneath all striving. The self that accepts is not different from the self that is aware. They are one. When we sit in stillness, we return. When we listen without judgment, we return. When we let ourselves feel what we feel, without pushing it away, we return. Not to an idea of who we should be, but to the quiet truth of who we are. This is the mirror that Zen offers. It does not distort. It does not flatter. It simply reflects. The more we look into it, not seeking but seeing, the more we realize. There is nothing missing. There never was. The mind may struggle with this. It may reach for meaning or doubt the simplicity of it. But even this doubt is part of the path. Even the confusion is part of the awakening. We do not need to push it away. We do not need to understand everything. We only need to stay, to breathe, to soften, and to notice, over and over again. This is the practice. And in this practice, over time, we begin to see that acceptance is not a concept. It is a living experience. It is the act of meeting ourselves without defense, of holding our own hearts with the same gentleness we might offer a crying child. Not fixing, just holding. Just being there. Just breathing with it. Letting the storm pass. Letting the moment be enough. Letting this breath be home. There is nowhere else to go. Nothing else to become. You are already here. You are already enough. This is the still point Zen returns us to, again and again. The truth that in being what we are already whole. The practice is not to perfect ourselves, but to peel away all that is not true. The masks, the striving, the noise, all of it falls away when we sit still and simply notice. There is no arrival. There is only this breath, this body, this awareness. And in that there is peace. In that there is freedom. In that there is self. Not the small self, not the story, but the vast, quiet, open presence that has always been with you, waiting to be seen, waiting to be loved, waiting to be accepted, not for what it could become, but for what it already is. If this message resonates, subscribe for daily Zen reflections and guided wisdom to help you reconnect, reflect, and become fully yourself. Until then, remember, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path.